stand on God for thee. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' grand glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land and of the free and the home of the brave. Thank you, everybody, everyone. Thank you.
A pleasant good afternoon and welcome to Joe Walton Stadium on the campus of Robert Morris University in Moon Township, Pennsylvania for today's men's lacrosse matchup between the visiting Cleveland State Vikings and your Robert Morris University Colonials. 10th game of the season, at least scheduled for Robert Morris. The Colonials 4-5 on the season. Cleveland State 2-4 on the year. Taking a look at the all-time series, Robert Morris leads the all-time series 2-0. The last time these two teams met was back on April 13th, 2019, a 13-9 victory for the Colonials over the Cleveland State Vikings as they are still in the toddler stage of their program. These two teams in the future will be conference rivals in the Atlantic Sun. Coming up in 2022, Robert Morris, Cleveland State, amongst others, will be in the Atlantic Sun Men's Lacrosse Conference. Taking a look at Robert Morris this season, as we said, 4-5 on the year. They come off of a 16-15 victory against Jacksonville in the Crown Lacrosse Classic in Fort Mill, South Carolina, a classic that the Colonials won. Taking a look at Cleveland State, as I said, 2-4 on the year. They come off of a victory against VMI, a 16-4 victory for the Vikings against the Keydets up in Cleveland, and we are seconds away from getting this one underway. One of just two home games for Robert Morris this season, as they have been the barnstormers of the NCAA in men's lacrosse, as they were looking for a conference home after Robert Morris University left the Northeast Conference in the offseason. Face-off won by Cleveland State, and we are underway in Moon Township, PA. Cleveland State left to right across your screen in the green uniforms. Meanwhile, Robert Morris in the all-whites. They'll head right to left across your screen. Good to have you along with us on this beautiful, nearly cloud-free day in southwestern Pennsylvania. Temperatures in the mid-70s. Just an absolutely beautiful day for the early parts of April as a low shot bounces in as Stephen Mazie bounces that one in behind the Colonials netminder Liam Rosenthal, and an early lead for the Cleveland State Vikings. Taking another look at this one, you can see Rosenthal charging right at the goal, and a stick check just not powerful enough to knock the ball out of the stick of Mazie, and into the net it goes for a Cleveland State Vikings goal. And this face-off again won by Cleveland State as they will head to the offensive attack. Talked about Robert Morris being the barnstormers already this year. They have been on the road for all but one other game thus far this season, playing at home against Bellarmine, a 17-8 victory for Robert Morris in that one back on March 2nd. As Cleveland State has the ball to our right-hand side, setting up the offensive attack, and the ball comes loose, but the ground ball scooped up by Cleveland State. Radke brings it near side for Reno. Reno head towards the goal, then back behind the cage. and then up front, and a shot ripped off. That one carries wide. The miss by Hannah. Out of bounds it will go, but on the shot it will stay with Cleveland State and will remain Vikings ball.
The Cleveland State goal was scored by Massey Stephen. Time of the Vikings goal.
13 minutes, 35 seconds remain here in quarter number 1. As the ball goes far side. With it, it's Reno. Reno looks to head towards the goal, shut down by a Colonial defender. That was Bordeaux with the defense. Ball down onto the turf, and a ground ball scooped up by Robert Morris. The takeaway by Leary for Robert Morris, and here come the Colonials the other way. They get the clear and turn it to offense very quickly. A shot ripped off by Ryan Smith. Save made, though, by the Cleveland State netminder Sobey. And the other way come the Cleveland State Vikings, getting back to Ryan Smith, who took that shot for Robert Morris. With his next point, he will become the all-time leading scorer in Robert Morris history. As in the Colonials' last game against Jacksonville, Ryan Smith tied Trevor Moore for the all-time program record in points in a career. Cleveland State on the attack to our right-hand side yet again with the ball. It was Manfredi bringing it near side for Polidoris. As the ball goes across the end line, out of bounds it will go. And it will be Colonials' ball, a turnover for Cleveland State. And here come the Colonials looking to set up another offensive attack. It's been mostly Cleveland State through the first 2.5 minutes of this one. Robert Morris with just one decent attack opportunity. Let's see what they can do with the ball here. As it, at least for the moment, stays in the stick of Johansson. And the Colonials set it up near the midfield, bringing it near side, Starkey. And RMU with the clear finally as the packet comes for Starkey. And still Robert Morris out near midfield setting up their offense. Cleveland State matched up defensively here, man to man, at least for the moment. Far side it goes and back behind the cage. Out of the near side for RMU. Up on the high right, and a long shot ripped off the side of the net. Jimmy Perkins not able to find its way in between the pipes. Back the other way come the Cleveland State Vikings. Long stick worked up to now Ian McKissick. Long pass all the way back behind the goal. On the far side it'll go for Baker. And work back near midfield. Warner. And again back behind from Baker to Sullivan. Now back to Baker. Baker retreats and pushes it up high for Branzaskis. Check that, no, that was 16, not 6, and that's a Sigurdsson. Retreating with the ball, the Viking, McKissick, and the shot will plunk off of the cage and go across the end line. It'll stay with Cleveland State as the clock winds here with 10 minutes, 35 seconds to play first quarter. 20 on the shot clock as a crossing pass through the crease was knocked down to the turf by a Colonial. Big collision there, and a ground ball scooped up by Cleveland State, though the shot clock now winding down to 8. Apparently that ball did not clink off of the pipe as I had assumed earlier. Out of bounds it'll go. It'll stay with Cleveland State, but they only have 2 seconds to work with here. And they'll just throw it across the field, a Cleveland State turnover, and let's see if Robert Morris can get some sustained offense going here. Their last offensive possession was a lot of passing along the perimeter up top near the midfield. But midfield pressure here by Cleveland State as Robert Morris does clear it into the offensive zone. Cutting towards the cage, crossing pass and a shot and a save made by Sobey. As the Colonials got that shot off, and Sobey makes the stop for Cleveland State, and quickly the ground ball picked up by the Vikings, and they bring it back the other way in a hurry. Long pass near side, 10 yards away from the cage. Now back up top it'll go. It's Massey with it. Massey retreating. Feeds it off for Baker. Baker is Cleveland State brings in some substitutions. Now the ball into the stick of Reno. Reno straight to the cage. Bouncing shot off the mark. And out Out of bounds it will go, and it will stay with Cleveland State. Shot clock down to 40 here with 9:14 to play first quarter. Cleveland State up early 1-0, an early goal by the Cleveland State Vikings. Penetration by Baker, but couldn't do anything with it. And a nice defensive play there by two Colonials. One defender knocks it down to the turf. The other scoops up the ground ball. And here comes Robert Morris with the clear as it's worked back. It was Leary with the ground ball for Robert Morris after the nice defensive play made by Bordeaux. And here are the Colonials. And again, Robert Morris slowing down the pace as they set up their offensive attack, substituting to bring on the personnel they want for this offensive opportunity. It's Ryan Smith now with the ball for RMU. Sidesteps two green jerseys, then works it back. Far side it'll go. A little shake and bake, and a shot ripped off. A long shot from about 10 yards out, and into the net it'll go for Jake Boudreau and Robert Morris. Ties the game at 1-1 with 8:15 to play here in the first quarter on that goal from Jake Boudreau. Impressive shot there by the Colonials senior. One of a handful of seniors that will be honored later today in the post-game ceremony. The Colonials' goal scored by Boudreau comes at the 8:15 mark of the first quarter to tie this game up at 1 apiece. Now Cleveland State back on their heels as Robert Morris starts the attack. Trying to get their 5th win of the season are the Robert Morris Colonials. The ball worked back to Boudreau. Boudreau again with it. Near side it'll come for Holden. Holden down towards the goal line, then working it back yet again for Perkins. Perkins to Boudreau. Back behind the cage and then out left side. Robert Morris working it around the horn. Looked like Starkey was going to pull the trigger, but instead passes it off. A shoulder leaned in and a shot ripped off. And it'll go wide by Elliot Holden across the end line, and it'll stay with Robert Morris with 7:07 as the clock winds here in quarter number 1. 1-1 your score, as again back behind it goes. Going to the goal line, then stepping out and working the ball around are the Colonials. Now with it, it's Perkins. Out to the high left side, and a sharp shot around a defender there. And the goal for RMU's Elliot Holden gives the Colonials their first lead of the affair, as Robert Morris methodically worked that ball around and finally got the shot they wanted. As Holden got that pass from behind the cage and whipped it around the defender, and really that defender was as much of a screen for his netminder as anything. So Matt Manfredi stepping in front of Sobey there, allowing the Colonials' goal to be scored much more easily by Elliot Holden. The goal will go Holden from Keeley. With just under 7 minutes to go here in the first quarter. Cleveland State, after winning the draw, heads on the offensive attack.
The Robert Morris goal was scored. Number 31, Elliot Holden, his 6th goal of the season, with an assist number 29, Dan Patio. Final Colonials goal, 6:50.
Cleveland State works it out front. Nice save made there by the Colonials netminder Rosenthal. He knocked it down and aside, as cutting across the front of the cage was, I think, Dylan Warner for Cleveland State. And the Vikings set up the offense again after scooping up the ground ball after the RMU save. Now it's Sigurdsson. Near side it'll come for Warner yet again. Warner cuts to the net, then works it back behind, feeding it off for Sigurdsson. And around, high right, Polidorus. Back behind again for Baker. Out to the high left side, a shot ripped off. That one carries wide as Warner couldn't find the mark. Cleveland State last back. It'll stay with the Vikings with 41 to go on the shot clock. Polidorus sets the offense as he'll curl all the way up front, then off the crossbar. Shot clock will reset, and it will stay with Cleveland State. 5:25 to play here in quarter number one. Robert Morris up 2-1 on the Cleveland State Vikings. With it is Sullivan. Sullivan can't find his way towards the cage. Instead, will work it off, and the Colonials knock the ball down to the turf. And a ground ball scooped up by the long stick of Chason. And here comes Robert Morris back the other way quickly. The Colonials with the clear. It's Laurie. And the pass over to the far side. It was intended for Solhoff, but it will go out of bounds, and it will be Cleveland State ball on the Colonials turnover. 5 minutes to play here in the first quarter. RMU doing a nice job of shutting the Cleveland State Vikings from turning this defense into offense, and a pass that goes awry for the Vikings carries all the way to the near boundary. The turnover by the Vikings, Zwagerman, and a timeout is called. So a timeout on the field. We'll take a pause too. 4:38 to play first quarter. The score, Robert Morris 2, Cleveland State 1. You're tuned in to Robert Morris Men's Lacrosse on the Colonials Sports Network. 4:46 to play first quarter. Robert Morris 2, Cleveland State 1. A timeout taken, and it will be Robert Morris ball after a turnover just before the timeout by the Cleveland State Vikings. Let's see what Robert Morris can do with this offensive possession. The Colonials have taken the lead 2-1 on two straight goals. Goals scored by Boudreau and number 31, Elliot Holden. Back behind the net, Robert Morris with it. It's Perkins. Perkins curls to the goal line, then backs it back off. Back behind the cage again, it'll go. Up front, then cycled back behind. Now it's Perkins again with it for Robert Morris. Perkins out front. That one goes high. Though intended for the goal, it'll stay with RMU. And Solhoff now has it for Robert Morris as the clock restarts with 4:15 to play here in the first frame. Fed off for Clark. Clark to the goal line, then up front. Passes it off, and a shot ripped off by Ryan Smith. And again, that one high and over the left side of the cage. And it will stay with Robert Morris. 40 on the shot clock here as none of the shots have hit the pipe just yet. That one a save made by Cleveland State netminder Sobey, and Cleveland State scoops up the ground ball, and they'll bring it the other way. Vikings bring it up the field. Cleared into the zone by Cleveland State's Noah Gleason, 6'3", 210-pound redshirt senior. But the Colonials get it right back, and a ground ball scooped up, and RMU in a hurry brings it the other way. It's Johansson for the Colonials. Onto the goal line, and a shot ripped off by Solhoff on a sharp angle. That one caroms off the post. Out of bounds it will go. That's touched by Robert Morris, so a Colonials turnover. It'll be Cleveland State ball after the Colonials got the quick shot off. Back to the Vikings it will go. Nice play there by Ryan Smith. Stick check, and in the process never touches the ball, so he forces the ball out of bounds. Last touched by Cleveland State, so it'll be Colonials' ball as RMU will set the offense from the midfield. It's Boudreau. Now Starkey, high center. Near high left it'll come for Holden. Back for Starkey. Starkey into the box, shot ripped off. And that one out of bounds as it carries wide, but will stay with Robert Morris with 2:55 to play here in quarter number 1. Robert Morris on top 2-1, scoring 2 straight goals after an early Vikings goal. Curling up front, a shot bounced away. Solhoff tried to get it through the legs of the netminder Sobey, but out of bounds, and again it will stay with RMU as it was last touched by the Vikings along the near boundary. It's Starkey with it. Starkey weaving through traffic, and he'll take it down low and into the net. For the 3rd straight goal for Robert Morris, and the Colonials claim a 3-1 lead on that goal by Starkey. A lot of individual effort there by the sophomore midfielder from Strongsville, Ohio. As we'll take another look at this one. Slid past one defender and then went high, then went back down low, splitting the legs of Kevin Sobey, going 5-hole there. But that Colonials goal coming with 2:33 to play in the first quarter. Robert Morris has claimed themselves a 2-goal lead, and RMU with the ball here after getting the ball on the faceoff. Lots of pressure applied and a bouncing shot carrying wide by Perkins, and I think the angle of the bounce threw off the concentration of Sobey. He kind of lost that one for a second, but fortunately for him it carried wide over that far boundary. But we'll stay with Robert Morris. So the Colonials were last back. In the box, it's brought by Keeley. Check that, that's Boudreau. Now it's Perkins, pausing and then taking it up front. Big save made by Sobey. Fight for the ground ball. Still nobody scooping it up. Robert Morris had it for a minute. Couple of stick checks, and finally the Vikings come out of there with it. A lot of contact as Manfredi finally got it out and pushed it forward for a teammate, and it's Wagerman into the offensive zone for Cleveland State. A step in, then back by Manfredi. Now for Massey. Worked back for Radke. And Cleveland State slowing it down a bit here, setting up their offensive attack with about 70 seconds to play here in the first quarter. Now 45 on the shot clock. Ball worked back. With it, it's Reno. Back for Sullivan. Now a charge towards the cage and a bouncing shot. Rosenthal got a piece of it. And Cleveland State scoops up the ground ball. 50 seconds to go here in quarter number 1, so the shot clock irrelevant at this point. Clock stopped on your screen, but winding here in the stadium. And now both are winding again with about 30 seconds to go here in quarter number 1. Robert Morris up by 2 on the scoreboard. Cleveland State wanting to get last shot of the quarter as Massey has it for the Vikings. Down to 20 seconds to go. Massey now starts his charge. Takes it up front, then whips one and gets it past the Colonials netminder Rosenthal. And the goal for Cleveland State, their second, cuts the Colonials lead down to 1. The Massey's unassisted goal comes with 10 seconds to play here in the quarter. And you can see here how Massey just went forward. Colonials kind of lulled to sleep a little bit there, anticipating a pass into the crease and then a shot. And instead, Massey just turned and whipped it towards the cage himself for the second Cleveland State goal. Robert Morris digs for the face-off, trying to get one quick shot off, and Cleveland State doing their best to prevent a good opportunity here, and a pass ripped. And that'll do it for quarter number one. We will head to the second quarter with the score, Robert Morris 3, Cleveland State 2. We'll step away for a couple of minutes when we return. Second quarter action. It's Robert Morris men's lacrosse here on the Colonial Sports Network. Set to begin quarter number two, Robert Morris and Cleveland State in this men's lacrosse matchup. Future conference foes in the Atlantic Sun, as Atlantic Sun men's lacrosse will start in 2022 and will feature Air Force Bellarmine, Cleveland State, Detroit Mercy, Robert Morris, and Utah. You've got to assume that Robert Morris, Cleveland State, and Detroit Mercy, as time progresses, is going to be some of the natural rivals in that conference, considering those teams will be foes in a lot of sports, including women's lacrosse, as well as most of the other major sports here at Robert Morris, as the Colonials' majority of sports now in the Horizon League, as the face-off initially won here in the second quarter by Cleveland State. The Colonials with the takeaway. A near turnover for Robert Morris, but they'll maintain the possession at least for the minute. Here come the Colonials offensively. It's Ryan Smith trying to dig his way towards the cage. Instead has to feed it off. Now high left side. The Colonials still maintaining the pressure. Along the goal line now it's Smith. And somehow Smith rips one over his shoulder and into the goal. And with that goal, Ryan Smith is now the all-time leading scorer in Robert Morris history. And he does it in style with that big, big goal. Take another look at this one. Smith takes it up front, somehow over the shoulder, puts it in the goal over the right shoulder of the goaltender, Kevin Sobey. Congratulations to Ryan Smith with that goal for Robert Morris.
The Robert Morris goal was scored. Ryan Smith, his 34th goal of the season.
That goal by Ryan Smith, his 34th of the year, and like I said, he now owns the program record for goals in a career, or with points in a career. As you hear the applause coming from the crowd below us, and congratulations of Ryan Smith becoming the all-time leading scorer in Robert Morris history with that goal. Clock winding, 13:41 to play here in quarter number two. Robert Morris again with a 2-goal lead. Ball that rolls across the end line by Cleveland State. Robert Morris last back. It'll be Colonials ball. Nice hustle there by Robert Morris to make sure that they will have the ball. Colonials bringing it into the offensive end of the field. And into the box it'll go for a clear. Up front, Smith. 4 defenders on him and still able to work it off to a teammate. Nice shot ripped off by Boudreau, but able to put it into the net as a save is made by the goaltender, Sobey. The other way come the Cleveland State Vikings as they look to get the clear and do so. Vikings on the offensive end. With it, it's Hannah. Hannah, about 30 yards out, works it back for Radke, make it around 20 yards out before working it back to Radke. Now it's Massey. Massey back to Radke. And the pass intended for teammate Sullivan. And Sullivan couldn't grab that one cleanly. Across the end line it'll go. And another Cleveland State turnover. Let's see what the Colonials can do here. They have turned a lot of Cleveland State turnovers into offensive opportunities thus far today. Colonials on the offensive end now. As it's worked on for Boudreau. To Starkey, back to Boudreau. Boudreau again with it. The Colonials cycle in some players. Now Smith. Boudreau, backhanded pass, long reach, and ball grabbed by Clark. Shot goes wide. The Colonials last back will stay with RMU. Solhoff sets the offense for Robert Morris with 42 to go on the shot clock. Now it's Perkins. Perkins surveys from back behind the net, and he'll hand it off for Clark. Taggart Clark now up top for Ryan Smith. Now high onto the right side, it's Solhoff. Solhoff to Smith. Smith gets some separation from a defender. Underhanded pass intended for Perkins. It goes wide. A collision between a Colonial and a Viking, and that allows a second Colonial scoop up the ground ball. Nice absorbing of a shot by Starkey there. Rips off a shot. It carries wide. Big hit by Ryan Smith to keep the ball in play. And RMU scoops the ground ball, and they have a fresh shot clock to work with. No, they'll say it'll be Cleveland State ball instead. Colonial fans not happy with that one as Cleveland State ends up with the possession. Near high left it'll go. It's Baker with it for the Vikings, and a shot is ripped off by Baker, a long shot. And Cleveland State has cut into the Colonials' lead. It's down to 4-3. Take another look at that one. Long goal, about 12 yards out, ripped off, and nice job of Baker using the defenders to kind of screen. So that goal with 10:38 to play in the second quarter. The first second quarter goal by Cleveland State. Robert Morris with the takeaway. Here come the Colonials with it. Shot ripped off by Perkins. Save made by Sobey. Perkins doing a great job of knocking that ball down. Many stick checks by Perkins. Still the ball loose on the ground. Who's going to get that loose ball? It's Perkins with the ground ball for Robert Morris. Strong play there, leading to an offensive opportunity for RMU. Colonials will now slow it down as it's Laurie. Worked back for Holden. Now Laurie again with it for RMU. Colonials slow it down as Boudreau will set the offense for RMU. Long shot by Ryan Smith, sails wide. The Colonials last back. It'll stay with Robert Morris. 4-3 your score with 9:30 to play here in the second quarter. A pass intended for Ryan Smith carries all the way to the midfield, and long pole Opportunity for a ground ball for Robert Morris, but as he poked at it, it's going to be Cleveland State scooping up the ground ball and leads to an offensive opportunity for the Vikings instead. Far side with it for Cleveland State is Jason Sullivan, senior out of Orlando, Florida. Cycled now onto the high left side to the near side for Baker. Baker back to Sigurdson. Sigurdson pausing, being defended well by Johansson for Robert Morris. Worked off far side, penetration by Polidorus. Back behind again for Cleveland State. Ball back up on the high left for Sullivan. Sullivan trying to find a gap. Now cuts towards the net. Save made by RMU's goalkeeper Rosenthal. Ground ball scooped up by Robert Morris, and the Colonials run with speed the other way. Long pole shot bounced into the goal by Johnny Chason. He scooped up the ground ball, took it the other way, and made it happen himself. Chason with the goal for Robert Morris. So we'll take a look here. Chason, as I said, scooped up the ground ball, brought it the other way, whipped it down towards the ground, which allowed it to bounce between the legs of Kevin Sobey, and the Colonials have grabbed a 3-goal lead again on that goal by Chason. That goal coming with 8 minutes, 21 seconds to play in the second quarter. Chason, 6-foot junior, the long stick midfielder out of Glenwood, Maryland. Cleveland State with the ball. Now Radke with it for Cleveland State, off to Massey. Back behind the goal for Hanna. Hanna to Massey again. He pauses along that goal line, then works it back. Long stick, knocks it down to the field, and a nice defensive play there by Elvin Helmich, the defender for RMU. And the other way come the Colonials after the takeaway. Ball down to the ground for a minute, but scooped up by RMU. Cycled and worked to the low right-hand side, and a shot ripped off by Brendan Sulhoff. And RMU has grabbed a 4-goal lead for the first time today on that great shot by, or rather a 3-goal lead for the first time in a while today on that goal by Sulhoff. Really a nice job there as he got it down on the goal line, stepped out in front, and whipped that one into the cage. So that RMU goal coming with 7:30 to go. The 6th goal of the game for the Colonials, and all 6 goals have been scored by different RMU players thus far. Conversely, Cleveland State, 3 goals in total, 2 by Massey, 1 scored by Chase Baker. An infraction by Cleveland State during the faceoff, and it leads to a Robert Morris possession and an opportunity to build on this 3-goal advantage. Bouncing shot, carries wide. RMU last back, it's Ryan Smith. He'll sit the offense for RMU from back behind the cage for a boundary. 7 minutes, around 10 seconds to go here in the first half. Low shot ripped off. Smith's shot save made by Sobey. And Cleveland State looks to answer after Robert Morris has taken a 3-goal advantage. Colonials scoring twice since the last Cleveland State goal. Colonials with 3 goals in each quarter thus far. Cleveland State with 2 in the first and 1 thus far here in the second. Long pass, nearly the 2/3 the length of the field, finally scooped up by Chase Baker. And Cleveland State going to settle things down as they bring their attackmen forward. Near side, it's Massey. Massey settles down well behind the net, 10 yards behind the goal line. Now it's fed off Radke. Radke takes it across the goal line, 5 yards out. He'll pause. Across the field it'll go and just intercepted. Long reach and a nice INT again by Chasen. Chasen pushes it forward, and now the Colonials settle down on the offensive attack. About 5 yards out, the shot ripped off by Solhoff. Save made. Fresh 80 to work with for Robert Morris. As timeout is called by Cleveland State. That'll give us an opportunity to take a pause as well. 5:51 to play, second quarter. Scoreboard reads Robert Morris 6, Cleveland State 3. You're tuned into Robert Morris Men's Lacrosse on the Colonial Sports Network.
Come on, Dean.
5:51 to play, second quarter. Robert Morris 6, Cleveland State 3. Cleveland State timeout taken as Robert Morris has really started to control things offensively. And Cleveland State hasn't been able to get much going on the offensive end here in the second quarter. Colonials have taken advantage of good defensive play and turned it into some goals as they have this 6-3 advantage against Cleveland State. Robert Morris has won the two previous meetings between these two teams. It's Ryan Smith. Smith, who set the program record for points in a career, feeds it off. Shot by Johansson low, out of bounds. It will stay with Robert Morris. 47 on the shot clock. 5:16 as the clock winds here in the second quarter. Back behind, now out on the high left side for Perkins. Perkins yo-yos his way in, then back out, fed it off, then gets it back. Now it's Smith. Smith charging. Another backhanded shot, that time big save made by Sobey, and Cleveland State looks to take it the other way. Long pass yet again for Cleveland State, and as they look to move it about 2/3 of the way down the field, they did it once successfully, but this time the pass intended for Chase Baker goes out of bounds, so a turnover for Cleveland State, this time unforced, and let's see what Robert Morris can do with this possession. And as RMU looks to push it up the field, out of bounds it will go, a Colonials turnover. And Cleveland State looks to bring it the other way. Push forward and finally cleared into the zone, into the box for Cleveland State. A quick pass up front. Sails past a Cleveland State Viking. Robert Morris back 2-on-3 right now. Ryan Smith slows it down, then leaves it back for a teammate, Solhoff. Back to Smith. Smith dances around one defender, feeds it off, and a nice feed from Smith to Perkins, and Perkins finishes it off, and the Colonials have extended their lead to 7-3. So that time it's Perkins from Smith. with 3:56 to play. And nice little fake there, twice going high by Perkins, and that just brought the stick down enough by Sobey to make that one happen. And here we have another look at it as Smith feeding that one off to Perkins, and the little shake move, just enough to lower the stick for Sobey and allows Perkins to score that one with 3:56 to play in quarter number 2. Fight for the face-off, and Robert Morris scoops up the ground ball, and here they come with it. It's Bordeaux. Back. Sturgis. Bordeaux. Back to Sturgis. Sturgis with the long stick. Bordeaux to Sturgis again. He's going to whip one off. Out of bounds it will go. Looked like the goaltender Sobey got a piece of it, but the officials don't concur, so it will, at least for the moment, stay with Robert Morris, and a shot clock down to 60 at this point. Along the goal line, it's Solhoff. Now Smith. Holden. Off to Starkey. Starkey goes to the goal line, then back behind. Perkins, Smith, and again Holden. Holden from straight away. Shot low, save made by Sobey, and Cleveland State looks to bring it the other way. Ball knocked down to the turf, and a ground ball scooped up by Cleveland State. Cleveland State maintains the offensive possession with 2 minutes, 35 seconds to play. Vikings with it. It's Massey. Massey with 2 goals thus far for Cleveland State. Far side now up high for Radke. Radke back into the box. Cruises to about 5 yards out, then leaves it back behind for Massey again. Massey with the ball, 2 minutes, 10 seconds to go here in the quarter. Works it out, now up high again for Sullivan. To the near side for Reno. Reno goes to the goal line, then back behind again for Massey. Massey up front. Ball carries wide. And it carries across midfield, so it'll be Robert Morris with the ball, and it'll be worked back. I'm going to say Robert Morris has to reset their offensive attack back near that 40-yard mark, 30 yards out from the goal. Up top it'll go for Holden. A couple of pauses there by the Colonials attack, and they will cycle it around. Up high again for Holden. Holden feigns the scoop pass, then back behind the cage again. With it for RMU is McGonigal. Up onto the high left, and a pass goes awry, intended for Lidstone. It'll bounce to the near boundary, out of bounds. Cleveland State ball. 1:11 to play here in the second quarter, so at this point, shot clock irrelevant. An 80-second shot clock at about 67, 66 seconds to go here in the quarter. Robert Morris with this 4-goal advantage. Robert Morris scoring 4 goals here in the second quarter. Cleveland State just 1 in the second frame as the ball bounces to the far side for Sullivan. Just under a minute to go here. Sullivan back for Warner. Warner to Sullivan again. He'll settle. 35 seconds to go here in the corner. Cleveland State looking to set their attack and get last shot off. It's Baker. Baker again back behind the net. Checking the time, Warner. Warner up towards the goal line, then he will retreat as 2 defenders converge. Flag comes in. Shot bounced awry. Cleveland State scoops the ball. Down to 10 seconds to go here in the quarter. Along the goal line, now retreating with it. Pass across. With it, it's Warner. That one goes wide and will carry all the way across the end line. And I do believe Robert Morris will start the second half a man down. But that's something they'll have to tackle in about 10 minutes. We will head to halftime Robert Morris +4 on the scoreboard, leading the Cleveland State Vikings 7-3. You're tuned into Robert Morris University Men's Lacrosse here on the Colonial Sports Network.
Please stick around for our Senior Day ceremony, which will start at the end of the game in about 10 minutes. Again, after the game, 10 minutes later.
Set to begin half number 2 momentarily, taking a look at the Ryan Smith goal coming in the early stages of quarter number 2, and a very important goal, not just because of how pretty it was, but it was a record-setting goal for Ryan Smith. He is now the program's all-time leader in points scored in a career. It's halftime. Robert Morris 7, Cleveland State 3. Good to have you along with us from Moon Township, Pennsylvania at Joe Walton Stadium as the Robert Morris Colonials take on the Cleveland State Vikings in this men's lacrosse matchup. Future conference foes, Cleveland State and Robert Morris, as the Atlantic Sun will launch their men's lacrosse conference in 2022. Talked about it earlier. Air Force, Bellarmine, Cleveland State, Detroit Mercy, Robert Morris, and Utah. So kind of scattered around the country will the Atlantic Sun men's lacrosse conference be. However, it will be good to see Robert Morris back in a conference. Right now, Robert Morris 4-5 on the season. Cleveland State just 2 wins thus far this year. Cleveland State with the ball to begin the second half as we are back underway. Sportsville Day here in Moon Township, Pennsylvania. Softball doubleheader down at the North Athletic Complex taking place right now. Also the Robert Morris football team in action at Charleston Southern. That game just underway in the third quarter. Robert Morris trailing 14-7 in that one in Big South football action. Cleveland State with the ball, looking to cut into this lead for Robert Morris that currently stands at 4. Went into the second quarter, Robert Morris on top 3-2, but Robert Morris scored 4 of 5 goals in total in that second quarter to take a 7-3 lead into halftime. A shot by Cleveland State and a save made by RMU netminder Liam Rosenthal, and here come the Colonials looking to build on this 4-goal advantage. Ryan Smith 2 points thus far today, a goal and an assist, as he is, as I said, the program record holder in points scored. Taking a look at some of the stats that were handed to me just before we went back on air. Robert Morris up by pretty much every category significantly other than saves, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that, quite frankly, Robert Morris has held the lion's share of the offensive possessions. Cleveland State with 16 turnovers, Robert Morris with just 5. Cleveland State with those aforementioned dozen saves, 6 made thus far by Colonials netminder Liam Rosenthal, now 7 after that save early on here in the third quarter. Robert Morris plus 13 in the shots. Taking a look at ground balls, Robert Morris plus 3 in that category coming into halftime. Robert Morris has won 7 of 12 face-offs thus far. Colonials have completed 10 of their 11 clears. Cleveland State, 11 of their 15 opportunities. Cleveland State with the extra man to start this quarter, but Robert Morris was able to kill that man down, and now it's RMU on the offensive attack for the first time here in the third quarter. After turning Cleveland State over, they bring it the other way. And let's see what the Colonials can do here. Plus 4 on the scoreboard on the offensive attack. Ball paused and then up high on the left. Holden with it for RMU. Holden charging. Pauses, leaves it back for Smith. Ground ball scooped up by Smith. Now Starkey. Feeds it off. Bordeaux charging, 10 yards out. Scoop shot. Out of bounds it'll go. Robert Morris last back with 12 minutes to play in the third quarter. 25 on the shot clock. Let's see what the Colonials are able to do here as Perkins leaves it off. Racing towards the goal line is Solhoff. Now he'll hesitate. Shot clock down to 10 at this point. Perkins, now exactly 10. Perkins somehow scoops it backhand and got it on that very, very sharp angle into the goal. In fact, so sharp the official had to go over and make sure that the ball was in the goal and not sitting on the side of the goal. What an impressive goal by Jimmy Perkins with the shot clock waning. We'll take another look at this one. Perkins steps to the goal line and somehow sweeps that one back and gets it past the netminder Kevin Sobey. An impressive goal by Jimmy Perkins for Robert Morris. his second of the game, and in fact, second in a row. A big goal there for Perkins. Puts Robert Morris on top by 5, 8-3, with 11:40 to play in quarter number 3.
The Robert Morris goal was scored. 51, Jimmy Perkins, his 23rd of the season and his second of the game. Time for the Colonials goal.
Robert Morris scoring 4 straight goals, and the Colonials have scored 5 of the last 6 in this game since the start of the second quarter. 8-3 your score. Cleveland State with the ball. Vikings looking to answer back as Robert Morris has scored those 4 unanswered thus far. It's Sullivan with it for Cleveland State, back behind the net. Reno flashes across the goal line, then works it up top. It's Massey again. Massey to Reno, 10 yards out. Makes his way towards the net. Low shot, save made again by Liam Rosenthal. Ground ball by Robert Morris, and they'll bring it the other way. Racing with it, it's Laurie. Laurie gets the clear, then retreats and pauses. Feeds it off far side. Solhoff galloping towards the net, and pauses, puts it back behind for Ryan Smith. Smith directing traffic. Smith out onto the high left. The ball bounces out of the stick of Boudreau. Now it's Smith scooping it up. Perkins, far side. Now out on the high right, slowing it down is Lidstone. Off for Johansson. Johansson pushes it forward to Deo. Now it's Johansson again. Pauses. Tried to get it off to Perkins, but the long stick midfielder came in defensively and took it away for Cleveland State. The big reach by Michael Harris leads to a takeaway for the Vikings, and they'll bring it back the other way with an offensive opportunity here. They've got some speed and momentum with 9.5 minutes to go here in the third quarter, but they'll slow it down with 60 seconds to go on the shot clock. -5 on the scoreboard, though. Shot blocked by a defender. 2 long sticks trying to scoop up the ground ball for Robert Morris. Still a battle for that ground ball. It's kicked loose. 2 Colonials. A nice job defending a green jersey by RMU. Allows the ground ball to be scooped up by the Colonials. Bordeaux, and here come the Colonials. Or rather, Boudreau. Cleveland State with the ball. It's Gleason. Gleason from 4 yards towards the goal. Works it back out. Cleveland State settles down. Far side it will go. Back behind the Vikings work at McKissick. Off for Hanna. Hanna heads towards the crease, then works it up front. And a nice pass from Hanna up to Baker, and Cleveland State scores for the first time since early in the second quarter on that feed. And finally the Vikings score. As again you see there the nice feed from Hanna up front, and Baker pulls the trigger to score for Cleveland State. Second goal in a row for Baker for Cleveland State. They come quite a long time apart. The last Cleveland State goal came at the 10:40 mark of the second quarter. That one coming with about 8 minutes and 20 seconds to go here in the third quarter. And Cleveland State almost immediately adds to their goal tally, cutting into the Colonials' advantage quickly out of the faceoff. As the Vikings score there, it's Evan Moskawa. Moskawa, after the faceoff win, raced towards the cage and bounced one into the net behind Liam Rosenthal for 2 quick goals for Cleveland State. Coming less than 10 seconds apart. This time Robert Morris going to win the faceoff. Settle things down as they head offensively. Ball loose and a ground ball scooped up by Cleveland State. The Vikings bring it the other way with speed. Back it's worked. Now to the near side. And Sullivan back behind Hannah as Cleveland State works at around 60 on the shot clock. 7:40 to play here in the third quarter. Robert Morris had taken a 5-goal lead, 8-3, but Cleveland State scoring 2 very quick goals and has captured a bit of the momentum here in the third quarter. Robert Morris needs to shut down this offensive attack for Cleveland State and turn it into some offensive zone time for themselves, even if they don't come out of it with a goal. Vikings with it, it's Massey. Or rather, Massey. Back behind, Radke. Radke curls up top and feeds it back near side. Massey again with it. Massey, pass across. And the ball finds its way to the stick of Chase Baker, and Chase Baker scores his 3rd goal of the game. And all of a sudden, Cleveland State has really gained some momentum here, scoring 3 goals in a matter of a minute and a half. Taking a look at that goal there by Chase Baker. Another shot ripped off with some movement. So with 6:59 to play here in the third quarter. The Colonials lead is down to 2. There's 3 straight goals scored by Cleveland State after Robert Morris had scored 5 in a row. Ryan Smith answers back quickly, though, as the Colonials win the faceoff. They take it into the offensive zone, a little dance, a little stick movement, and then Ryan Smith buries it into the back of the net to give Robert Morris that comfortable 3-goal lead again, 9-6 with 6:49 to play. We'll take another look at this one. The feed to Smith. Smith, one little stick fake, and then he takes it down low. And RMU extends its lead back to 3 with their 9th goal of the game and the 2nd of the game by Ryan Smith. That goal by Smith coming with 6 minutes and 50 seconds to play. It's almost 5 minutes between Colonials' goals, but it came at a pivotal time as Cleveland State had certainly gathered a significant portion of the momentum. Battle for the face-off. Who's going to get the ground ball? It'll be Robert Morris. So ultimately a face-off win for Robert Morris, and it comes at another big moment. So Solhoff credited with an assist on the goal by Ryan Smith. Smith his 35th goal of the season. It goes along with an assist today already. As that shot is ripped off, it'll carry high and wide. Robert Morris last back, so they will maintain the possession with 6:08 to play here in the third quarter. Clock winds, 6:05. 45 on the shot clock. It's Perkins with it for RMU. Now out front, a shot ripped off, carries wide by Taggart Clark. Out of bounds, and it'll stay with RMU. 5:55 as the clock winds here in the third frame. Again, Robert Morris with it down to under 30 on the shot clock. It's Solhoff. Up top, Smith. Smith dances past the defender, and somehow, from about 10 yards, retreating, has enough whip to it to get it into the net for his 3rd goal of the game. And Ryan Smith puts his team on his back and gives Robert Morris that comfortable 4-goal lead again. Taking a look at that one from 10 yards out with the momentum carrying his body away from the goal. He's able to rip that one off and bury it into the net. With 5:37 to play in the third quarter, Ryan Smith has given Robert Morris a 4-goal lead. Ground ball scooped up by the Colonials. Another face-off win for Michael Autry. Elliott Holden with it for Robert Morris. They'll slow it down just a bit. Now for Johansson. Back to Holden. Holden and Johansson pitch and catch. 25 yards out. Now a low shot. And from nearly the same spot that Ryan Smith scored, this one charging towards the goal line. It's Elliot Holden giving Robert Morris the 5-goal advantage again. So all of a sudden, Robert Morris has regained that 5-goal lead in a very short period of time. And that's beneficial because they have reclaimed that momentum after Robert Morris was up 8-3. Cleveland State ripped off 3 quick goals. Robert Morris answers back with 3 of their own to take that 5-goal lead again. That goal coming with 5 minutes exactly to play here in quarter number 3. Robert Morris on top 11-6. Who's going to get the ground ball? Again, a big battle for it. Still pushed back in the defensive end, and it's finally scooped up by Eli Doyle as Robert Morris ultimately gets the face-off win. Now a loose ball. Who's going to grab it? The Colonials will do so. It's scooped up, the ground ball by Solhoff. Solhoff retreating. Pauses, and then will feed it off for Doyle. Doyle sets the offense for Robert Morris as he works it back for Tadeo. Carried in by Dan Tadeo, the 5'11 junior out of Penfield, New York. Back behind the net. Bounces it back. With it, it's Perkins. Perkins to Smith. Smith scoops the ground ball, backhanded shot, whipped wide. Robert Morris last back. Will stay with the Colonials. Just under 4 minutes to play third quarter. Colonials up by 5, 11-6. Solhoff charges to the goal line. Up front, ball's bouncing in the crease. And the ground ball scooped up. The officials give the ball to Cleveland State, and here come the Vikings with 3:45 to play in the third quarter. Sullivan with the ball for the Vikings. He'll retreat towards midfield. Now charging forward with it, it's Polidorus. Back behind. Now it's Hanna. Worked around. Back out 30 yards away. Near side it comes. Sullivan. Sullivan charges to the goal line, then works it back behind for the Vikings. Out to the high left side for Baker, who has a handful of goals today for Cleveland State. Ball knocked down to the turf. Kicked forward by RMU. Who's going to scoop the ground ball? Still a battle for it near midfield. And the Colonials will end up with it. Great teamwork, keeping green jerseys away from the ball. And finally, Robert Morris comes out of there with it. Stick check, knocks the ball down to the turf, and Cleveland State takes it back from the Colonials in the midfield. And they push it forward. Cutting towards the net, catching the pass and scoring the goal, Nick Polidorus for Cleveland State, the 5'8 junior from Canton, Michigan, cuts into the Colonials' advantage. As Polidorus came cutting through traffic, catching that pass and scoring quickly. Nice pass from Jason Sullivan as it goes stick to stick from Sullivan to Polidorus to score that Cleveland State goal. That coming with 2:28 to play here in the third quarter. Cutting the Robert Morris lead down to 4, and the Colonials will win the ensuing faceoff. Just over 2 minutes to play here in the third quarter. The Colonials with the ball and an offensive opportunity. Boudreau works it back. Through traffic, long stick shot by Leary. Bounces across the end line. And will be Cleveland State ball as the Colonials didn't have a white jersey back. It'll be Vikings ball with less than 2 minutes to go here. A pivotal defensive possession. Don't want to let Cleveland State take any momentum into the quarter. Nice save made there by Liam Rosenthal, and the Colonials come out of there with the ground ball, and they'll turn some defense into offense. 75 on the shot clock, about 80 seconds to play here in the third quarter. Ryan Smith rips off a shot. Save is made by Sobey. The other way go the Vikings, but the Colonials quickly take it back. A ground ball scooped up by Boudreau, and RMU going to slow it down and set it up offensively. About a 10-second differential between shot and game clock at this point. Smith, Perkins, back to Smith. Now up high on the left, it's Lidstone as the Colonials will work it around. Now Boudreau. Boudreau again with it, feeds it back, Lidstone. Now Boudreau, Lidstone, near side for Lidstone yet again. As up high, it's Holden. Now Holden and Lidstone switch positions with 45 to go in the quarter and about 30 seconds now to go on the game clock. Colonials happy to move the ball outside of the box, and now we'll start their charge with about 20 seconds to go on the shot clock. Now 15 to go on the shot clock, as here come the Colonials. Cross-field pass, and out of bounds it will go, and a turnover for Robert Morris. It'll be Vikings ball with just 15 seconds to go in the quarter, and let's see what they will do with it, trying to move it quickly. Colonials shutting it down near the midfield, though. Down to 5 seconds to go in the quarter. 3 seconds to go. 2, 1, long shot, and that is intercepted by a Colonial, and that'll do it for the third quarter. So we head to the fourth quarter. Robert Morris +4 on that scoreboard. It's RMU 11, Cleveland State 7. You're tuned into Robert Morris Men's Lacrosse on the Colonial Sports Network.
Robert Morris Colonials with 11.
Eleven to 7 your score as we're set to begin the fourth quarter here in Moon Township, Pennsylvania. Adam Gusky on the call for you on the Colonial Sports Network. Robert Morris men's lacrosse team leading the Cleveland State Vikings, as I said, 11 to 7 through 3 quarters of action. Cleveland State had cut the Colonials' lead from 8 to 3 down to 8 to 6, but the Colonials ripped off 3 quick goals to shut down that Cleveland State momentum. And Cleveland State was able to gather in one more before the quarter expired. But Robert Morris +4 on the scoreboard as we head to the fourth and final quarter. Robert Morris entering the game with a record of 4-5. Cleveland State 2-4 on the year for these future conference foes. Future members of the Atlantic Sun Men's Lacrosse Conference, which will feature Air Force Bellarmine, Cleveland State, Detroit Mercy, Robert Morris, and Utah, Cleveland State, Detroit Mercy, and Robert Morris will be classic rivals in that conference, as they are all members of the Horizon League, which is the primary conference for Robert Morris Athletics. Of course, the women's lacrosse team in the Mid-American Conference, they lead the MAC this year and got a big win yesterday against Kent State as a shot ripped off by Ben Starkey goes up high after it caroms off of a defender, and Ryan Smith, who's now the all-time leader in points scored in Robert Morris history, had the ball. And things slowed down by Colton Lidstone as there's 40 seconds to go on the shot clock. RMU football in action today at Charleston Southern. As a shot ripped off, dancing his way through traffic, Jake Boudreau, scoring that one for Robert Morris. Boudreau, the senior, 6'2", 185 out of Brampton, Ontario, danced his way through traffic, and Boudreau scores there for Robert Morris. For the second time today, he scored the first goal of the game for the Colonials at the 8:15 mark of the first quarter. This one at the 13:42 mark of the fourth. Cleveland State going to scoop up the ground ball, winning the faceoff. As mentioned, the Robert Morris football team in action, taking on the Buccaneers of Charleston Southern. And right now a 21-7 lead for Charleston Southern in that Big South football matchup. RMU football will wrap up their regular season on this field next Saturday against the Monmouth Hawks. The first ever home game in the Big South for RMU. Ball comes near side for the Vikings. Worked around. And then back behind. With it, it's Maisie. Vikings with the ball to the goal line, then out for Massey. Massey scoring the first two goals for the Vikings earlier today. Massey, redshirt senior out of Easton, Pennsylvania, in the eastern part of PA, out near the New Jersey border. 12-7 your score, 5-goal lead for Robert Morris. Colonials have led by 5 once earlier today. Actually twice, as it was at one point 8-3 and then again 11-6 before Cleveland State cut the lead down to 11-7. But like I said, now back to 12-7. Robert Morris with the ball as they were last back, a Cleveland State turnover. RMU with the clear. Now they'll slow things down with just over a minute to go on the shot clock. 11:50 to play in regulation. The Vikings have, or rather the Colonials have the ball in the Vikings end of the field. Back it goes for Boudreau. Boudreau feeds it off to Clark. Taggart Clark. Back behind the goal. Clark crossing the goal line. Wheels his way all the way around the perimeter and then finally gives it off to a teammate for Boudreau. Boudreau gets it back from Perkins. Boudreau off Smith. Smith backing his way towards the goal. Tries to bounce one towards the cage. Robert Morris last back, but just 3 seconds to go on the shot clock here. And Robert Morris in all likelihood will be more than happy to just turn this one back to Cleveland State. But we'll see what they do here. Well, that's for a shot clock reset, so it will be Robert Morris with the ball with a fresh 80 to work with and 10:58 to play So that a big turn of events for Robert Morris as they have another opportunity to build offensively. It's Perkins crossing the goal line out to Smith. Smith feeds it off. Back and forth, Funk to Smith, back to Smith. Boudreau, and Funk will scoop it up. Now it's Boudreau again to Funk. Funk doesn't pull the trigger. Colonials working it near side. Funk has his pass deflected, and Cleveland State scoops up the ground ball at least for a minute. But then a nice job by Smith to check the stick, knock it down to the turf, and the Colonials scoop the ground ball. Shot clock resets, and so does the offensive attack for Robert Morris. With just over 10 minutes to play here in regulation, Robert Morris +5 on the scoreboard. Push forward, Taggart, Clark. Clark. Back behind the net, Solhoff scoops up the ground ball, and as he was tied up by a defender, a timeout is called by the Colonials bench as the offensive attack was breaking down. Drew McMinn, the head coach of the Robert Morris Colonials, asks for a timeout, so we'll take a pause too with 9:49 to play, fourth quarter. The scoreboard reads Robert Morris 12, Cleveland State 7. You're tuned in to Robert Morris Men's Lacrosse on the Robert Morris with the ball, up by 5. As they're on the offensive attack, a Colonials timeout taken moments ago. Vikings save made, and they'll come out of there with the ball, heading quickly onto the offensive attack. Far side, Vikings with the ball, it's Sullivan. Sullivan now retreats and feeds it off. Back to Sullivan it'll go from Gleason. Sullivan directs traffic as the Vikings will substitute some midfielders for attackmen. Back up high it goes. McKissick with it for Cleveland State. He charges forward, pauses, and feeds it off near side for Sullivan. Vikings working it around the box. Now it's Sigurdsson. Back off, Warner. Warner trying to back down a Colonials defender. Ball knocked down to the turf on a tough stick check. And then it's scooped up. Down along the goal line, the Vikings with it. It's Sigurdsson. Pressing forward, has it knocked to the turf, but will maintain the possession, though the shot clock is down to 1. Cleveland State will throw it away, and Robert Morris will get a takeaway, much to the joy of the Colonials fans and the RMU bench. As RMU very, very pleased to get that shot clock violation, turn it into an offensive possession with about 8 minutes to play here in the fourth quarter. Robert Morris +5 on the scoreboard. So the clock can start to be their friend, but of course they want to value these offensive possessions and get good shots off in the latter portions of the shot clock. Torrin Neal has it for RMU, well behind the goal line. Now takes it out and gives it off to Johansson. Back to Neal. Perkins back behind the net, feeding it off for Solhoff. Round to the near side, Funk up top. Smith, Neal. Johansson, and now Smith again with it. Smith charges his way forward, gets down to the goal line, and pauses. 20 to go on the shot clock as it'll go up high, and a shot ripped off by Funk down low, save made by Sobey, and Cleveland State brings it the other way. The ball down on the turf. Ryan Smith, a big check, and out of bounds it will go. The ball goes out, last touched by the Vikings, Quinn Lemke, and it's Robert Morris' ball. Colonials try to score quickly, and they will do so. Nice ball movement there as it finds its way to the stick of Will Johansson. He rips it off and scores for Robert Morris. And Johansson with that goal gives Robert Morris their first lead of a half a dozen, as that one cut its way across right to Johansson and Robert Morris. Their second goal here in the fourth quarter comes with 7:01 to play in regulation. And it was all set up by a very nice play by Ryan Smith to knock down Quinn Lemke, and as the ball rolled across the end line, it became Colonials' ball on the Cleveland State turnover. Now the Colonials battle for the face-off, but Cleveland State still can't scoop it up. It looked like they were going to do so. And finally the ground ball scooped up by RMU. So Johansson with the goal for Robert Morris. Johansson, the 6'3" freshman, wearing number 33, scoring that goal for RMU. McShay with it for RMU. Bodied up defensively. Now feeds it off for Tadeo. Now Lidstone back behind. Worked around Neal to Perkins. Now to the near side for Sulhoff. As RMU again methodically works it around. Shot clock down to 20 at this point. Cutting through traffic, a shot ripped off by Tadeo. To the far boundary it'll go. It'll stay with Robert Morris. Shot clock resets as the ball was off of the netminder Sobey. So the Colonials with the possession and a fresh 80 to work with. Far side Lidstone. Lidstone charging forward. All the way to the net. They'll say not an intended shot, as that will come all the way to the near sideline, and a turnover for Robert Morris gives Cleveland State the ball. The Vikings bring it out. Robert Morris +6 on the scoreboard though. And Cleveland State having a tough time breaking midfield, finally will do so. Big collision behind the play. No whistles blow though. Vikings with it. Cleveland State, Hannah setting it up for the Vikings. Now back up high for Radke. Radke to Sullivan. Now to the near side, Massey. Now it's Reno. Reno shot. Save made by Rosenthal. Across the field it'll go. Ground ball scooped up by Robert Morris, and here come the Colonials. It's Boudreau. Feeds it off for Laurie. Shot ripped off by Sulhoff off the side of the net. Ball scooped up by Cleveland State's Kevin Sobey. And the Vikings look to take it the other way. Time on the Colonial side right now. 4:15 and counting. Shot clock at 60. Battle for a ground ball, and finally Cleveland State scoops it up. And then Cleveland State is going to call a timeout. 4:04 to play, fourth quarter. Robert Morris 13. Cleveland State 7. We're going to step away. You're tuned into Robert Morris Men's Lacrosse here on the Colonial Sports Network. 4 minutes, 4 seconds remain in regulation. Robert Morris 13, Cleveland State 7. Adam Gusky on the call for you here on the Colonial Sports Network. As the Robert Morris men's lacrosse team looks to bring their record even to 5-5 on the season. Cleveland State coming into today with a record of 2-4 on the year. Vikings with the ball, setting the offense. Time not on their side, though, as the ball comes off to McKissick. McKissick works it off, far side, Sullivan. Now it's Baker. Baker takes it up high to Warner. Warner charging his way towards the goal line, now retreating. 10 yards out, he'll bounce a shot towards the net. Cleveland State last back, so they'll maintain possession, just 14 on the shot clock, though. Now it's Hannah. Hannah with it for the Vikings. Pauses, retreats, and then feeds off. Warner with it for the Vikings. Up front. And the shot clock violation by Cleveland State. Robert Morris gets the ball back. Another nice defensive possession for Robert Morris, leading to a Cleveland State shot clock violation. Onto the goal line it'll go, and a great feed from Sturgis. And that leads to a Robert Morris goal. As cutting through traffic went Sulhoff, and he took that nice feed from Sturgis to lead to another RMU goal, and it comes in style with that great pass and a nice finish up high by Sulhoff, the 5'7" junior. So the goal by Sulhoff, Sturgis with the assist. And with 2:54 to play, Robert Morris now doubling up Cleveland State 14-7. Cleveland State with the ball. Crossfield pass goes awry, a turnover for the Vikings. Clock now winds. Robert Morris up 14-7. This will be, in all likelihood, the third ever victory for Robert Morris over Cleveland State. These teams meeting for the third time since 2018. Teams were scheduled to play back in 2020, but obviously that didn't happen. As a shot and a goal. As into the crease, a shot and goal for Liam Keene, but a flag comes in, and Keene got knocked down, and the question here is, what is the penalty for? As Robert Morris looks on, they'll say a Colonials goal. Let's take another look at this one. And boy, did Liam Keene pay the price, getting that hip check as he gets knocked down to the turf, but a great job of getting that one into the net as he gets knocked down hard by Matt Manfredi, the 5'9" junior. So Liam Keene with the goal for Robert Morris, coming with 2:16 to play here in the fourth quarter. RMU extends their lead to 8, 15-7. And not only will the Colonials get the goal, but also a penalty while Robert Morris had the possession. Will give Robert Morris the possession to start with. Once we return to live action, and timeout taken by Cleveland State here as they want to talk things over. I think they want to talk to the official as well. Well, 2 minutes, 16 seconds to go in regulation. Robert Morris 15, Cleveland State 7. We'll probably step away one final time here. It's Robert Morris men's lacrosse on the Colonial Sports Network. Colonials ball after a Cleveland State timeout. Just over 2 minutes to play here in regulation. Robert Morris up 15-7 on the Cleveland State Vikings. Adam Gusky on the call for you here on the Colonial Sports Network. Future conference rivals, Robert Morris and Cleveland State will be part of the Atlantic Sun Men's Lacrosse Conference in 2022. They'll be joined by Detroit Mercy, also a member of the Rise. I think the shot ripped off there by Alex Funk, save made by the netminder Sobey. Also in that A-Sun Men's Lacrosse Conference will be Air Force, Bellarmine, and Utah. Shot clock at 70 with about 90 seconds to play. It's Ryan Smith behind the back. Shot ripped off by Torin Neal. A smattering of substitutes in there for Robert Morris as the Colonials have substituted liberally throughout today's game. Out it goes for Smith. Now Boudreau. Back to Smith. Boudreau with a couple of goals today. Smith with the hat trick. Now Perkins has it for the Colonials along that far boundary. Perkins with a couple of goals today as well for Robert Morris. The Colonials certainly have distributed the scoring around to several different players. Goals also scored by Johansson and Liam King. Solhoff has scored for Robert Morris as well, as there's now down to 35 seconds to go on the game clock and 10 seconds to go on the shot clock. And Robert Morris will take a timeout. We'll keep it here, though, as Drew McMinn wants to talk to his team, at least for a little bit. Next up for the Robert Morris Colonials, they will be on the road at Bucknell on Friday, April 16th, a 7:30 game for an in-state team. The Colonials take on the Bucknell Bison again on Friday, April 16th, and then Robert Morris will wrap up their season at Utah on Saturday, May 1st at noon, a future conference opponent there. Meanwhile, Cleveland State, they have a couple of games remaining on their slate as well. In fact, 3 to go on their slate. They'll be at Bellarmine, at home against Utah on April 21st, and they will wrap up their regular season on the road at VMI, a team that they've already played this year. And that game will be on the road at noon on May 1st to take on the Keydets after they hosted VMI back on April 3rd. So with 32.6 seconds to go here, 9 on the shot clock, strategy time for Robert Morris. What will they do with it? Feed to Perkins from Smith, and somehow Perkins standing on the doorstep. They say he was in the crease when he shot that one, and it won't be a goal for Perkins nor an assist for Smith, and Cleveland State takes it quickly the other way. What will the Vikings do with it? Game clock down to about 15 to go here. Out up high for Massey. Near side. With it, it's Baker to Massey. Massey, who scored the first goal for Cleveland State, in fact, scored the first 2 for the Vikings. And he'll just dance around with it and then dump it down to the turf. And Robert Morris gets the win 15-7 over the Cleveland State Vikings. With the win, Robert Morris, they improve their record to 5-5 on the year. Cleveland State, with the loss, they fall to 2-5 on the season. Next up for Robert Morris, we talked about it at Bucknell on Friday, April 16th. Then they will finish up their season at Utah on Saturday, May 1st. Next up for the Cleveland State Vikings, on the road at Bellarmine on April 17th before hosting Utah on April 24th and finishing up their season on the road, taking on the VMI Keydets on May 1st. Well, that'll do it for our coverage of Robert Morris men's lacrosse today from Joe Walton Stadium as the Colonials get the 15-7 victory over the Cleveland State Vikings. For our entire crew, I'm Adam Gusky. Thanking you for joining us here on the Colonial Sports Network.